that take our breath away. The shots that keep us spellbound. Real moments of extraordinary danger. Amazingly captured on film. Welcome to the heart-stopping scenes of National Geographic's most dangerous moments.
Watch out, Crossing!
From an elephant on the rampage to a tornado that levels a town.
They got some injured people.
From big blow-ups to mind-blowing rituals. And staggering moments where life hangs in the balance. These incredible scenes will compete for the title of Most Amazing Dangerous Moment. We'll bring you face to face with danger in 5 spine-tingling categories. Wild encounters, animal rescues, nature's fury,
This tornado, get below ground.
painful rituals, and amazing challenges. Get ready to experience some of the most hair-raising scenes ever captured on film. As we begin the countdown to danger with our most amazing wild encounters. We're used to seeing animals in the wild act wild. But put them behind bars in a zoo or circus, and people sometimes forget how wild they are and how dangerous. Take panda bears. We think of them as cute and cuddly, but you don't want to get too close. At this zoo in China, one man learned that the hard way. That man was lucky. The only thing he lost was his jacket. But wait till you see what happens in our next dangerous moment. We know to be afraid of polar bears. They're among the most fearsome predators on Earth. They're meat eaters that can grow to 10 feet high and run at more than 25 miles per hour. That's why this zoo in Anchorage, Alaska, put a retaining wall and a 20-foot no man's land between visitors and Binky. But one woman does the unthinkable. She ignores the rules and climbs over the wall to take a picture. Her leg is being crushed by jaws meant to shred seals. She was lucky to escape with a broken leg. Killer whales are huge, fast, and dangerous. So professional animal trainers working with them take every precaution. But no matter how well they know their animals, or how long they've worked with them, there's no way to be certain how a wild creature will act. This performance involved an acrobatic leap by one of the 10,000-pound whales. But then, something went wrong. The performer was crushed between the two whales, suffering a broken back and massive internal injuries. Amazingly, he survived. But sometimes, animal encounters can have more deadly outcomes, as in the incredible footage you're about to see. Ask any professional what's the most dangerous animal to work with in captivity, and they'll tell you, not the lion or the tiger, but the elephant. you'll see why in our most amazing wild encounter. A tragic sequence captured at a circus in Honolulu, Hawaii. Circus worker Alan Campbell was assigned to a female elephant named Tyke. It was almost showtime, the Saturday matinee, when something happened to Tyke. The events that follow are terrifying and unforgettable.
And behind the curtain, you know, where all the performers come out from, the elephant let out this loud scream. We thought it was a dummy because it had like a person dressed in a white cream colored was kind of being thrown around and smashed. And we wasn't sure if that was part of the act or something.
Alan Campbell rushes to aid his fallen colleague.
Oh my goodness, oh my God.
Audience members watch in horror, and several capture Tyke's rampage on video. Then, the enraged elephant charges out of the arena and onto the street.
Watch out, Bronte!
I need the police. There's a wild elephant that got loose at the circus at the Blaisdell. He is running around the Blaisdell Center. There are people that are in trouble here.
For 30 terrifying minutes, Tyke goes on a rampage through the city as police try in vain to stop her. Finally, the animal is brought down in a hail of bullets. No one can say for certain why Tyke snapped. As for Alan Campbell, he succeeded in saving his co-worker, but the heroic attempt cost him his life. As we've seen, when people and wild animals get too close, the results can be frightening, even deadly. But in spite of the dangers, some people are willing to risk their own lives to save animals from losing theirs. You won't believe what some people have done and suffered in order to rescue animals from harm. These researchers are trying to help preserve grizzly bears in the wild. They've knocked out this giant grizzly with a tranquilizer dart. But they haven't given it enough. The men escape from this raging bear unharmed. But sometimes, even in a successful rescue, it's the bear that takes a beating. Take a look at what happens to a wild bear in Missoula, Montana. The bear has climbed a tree in the middle of town and refused to come down. Finally, fish and wildlife experts decide to go up in a fire truck basket and shoot the bear with a tranquilizer dart. They place a trampoline to break its fall, but it doesn't work out exactly as planned. In case that was a little too quick for you to follow the bouncing bear, let's take another look. The bear falls out of the tree, lands on the trampoline, then bounces high in the air before landing on its head. Despite the crash landing, the bear wasn't hurt. But in our most amazing animal rescue, see what happens when a routine rescue goes dangerously wrong. In Scotland, on the west coast of the Isle of Skye, a farmer's cow is stranded on the rocky cliffs. A group of Coast Guardsmen and veterinarian Neil Stevenson attempt to get a net around the cow to hoist it to safety. They manage to get the cow into the net, but then the routine rescue takes a hair-raising turn. It happens in an instant. Stevenson slips on the rocks and grabs for the net, just as the helicopter begins to lift the cow into the air. So he lets go and tumbles head over heels into the sea. Stevenson's head is gashed and bleeding, and he could drown in the churning icy water. Coast Guard winchman Chris Murray jumps into the surf after him. The sea pounds them against the rocks. Till finally, with the help of the team on shore, both are hauled in. They're airlifted to local hospitals, Stevenson sustaining lacerations to his head and face, and Murray an injury to his back.
Well, I grabbed the net initially, and then I realized I was going up in the air, and I didn't know how far they were going to take me up in the air, so I decided to, I don't know, maybe foolishly jumped off.
Despite his injuries, Stevenson was lucky to survive. The cow was completely unscathed. We've seen that animal rescue can be risky and dangerous business for animals and rescuers alike. Danger also lurks elsewhere in the natural world, in the air and under the ground, when we encounter nature's fury. You can call it Mother Nature, but nature can also be violent. Nature's fury can kill those who challenge it, or more often, those who have the misfortune to be living in its path. You'll want to hold on to your seat when you see what's coming your way. An ice wall that threatens to drown bystanders. The white death of an avalanche hurtling downhill. And an Oklahoma twister that levels entire towns. So keep your head down as we bring you dangerous moments of nature's fury. High in the Italian Alps, Lago di Miage is a popular vacation spot. On a Sunday afternoon, Domenico Pellegrini and his family, along with dozens of other tourists, trek up to the rocky lakeshore. He brings along his video camera, but he isn't prepared for the awesome event he's about to see.
Before we arrived there at the lake, we heard strange noises, like little explosions. But no one imagined, especially me, that it was the glacier that was moving. When we got to the glacier, we saw that there were pieces of ice breaking off. It was moving.
It's a wonder of nature. The crowd isn't scared. They're enthralled to see the glacier moving right before their eyes.
There were people who were right up there under the glacier, much too close to it. Before the mountain of ice fell, we noticed that a very large piece had broken off. That's when we started feeling the danger in the air.
then, before anyone can react,
In just a few seconds, the entire mountain of ice fell into the water, and those people were swept away by a giant wave.
plunged into the torrent, the onlookers are pounded against the rocks. A dozen are injured, but miraculously, no one is killed. If you think that was amazing, wait till you see what's coming up next, right at you. Most skiers think of snow as beautiful, not deadly. But danger may be sleeping right beneath their skis. Avalanche. Few people have ever seen one, but they can unleash awesome destructive power with little or no warning. Picture tons of snow hurtling down a slope like a speeding locomotive, right at you. It's a horrible death, like drowning, but slower. Buried beneath feet of heavy snow, unable to move or free themselves, victims gradually suffocate and have time to think about it. Avalanches kill roughly 40 people in North America and 100 people in Europe every year. Even the most experienced skiers can find themselves hurtling downhill in a race with death. Australian Andy Stafford and two friends were flown high into the Alps for an adventure film. But this time, they chose the wrong mountain and the wrong challenge. Suddenly, the entire slope gives way. There's no outrunning the monster, as tons of snow come crashing down the hill at over 150 miles per hour.
As soon as it went, I thought, I'm dead, that's it, it's all over. And it sounded like someone dropped a bomb on us. The whole thing fractured heavily, and it was a large cracking sound. And I mean, I pretty much knew immediately that the whole thing broke up. Suddenly the whole thing was moving underneath. I'm the one on the top left-hand side. And I thought I'd go down and get out to the left-hand side after getting enough speed, but I guess I didn't realize this avalanche is getting close to about 250 kilometers an hour plus. That's pretty much all I remember. I yelled and screamed and rolled all the rest of the way down.
Incredibly, all three skiers survived their brush with death. Most people try to avoid danger in their lives, but sometimes they find themselves living right in its path. That's what happens in our #1 moment of nature's fury, as 3 lives face tragedy in the form of a deadly tornado. Oklahoma, May 3rd, 1999. A perfect spring day in the town of Moore, just south of Oklahoma City, where teenager Jennifer Briles lives with her grandmother, Nancy Talley, and her newborn baby, Marissa, just 5 days old.
I was taking care of my daughter. I was changing her diaper, washing her up, feeding her bottle.
But 40 miles to the south, a monster tornado is approaching. At 5:57 p.m., Channel 9 weatherman Gary England issues his first serious warning.
So you folks in the path of this tornado, get below ground.
I thought that a little tornado would hit, you know, until they kept telling us that it was building.
Large, multiple vortex tornadoes, very dangerous. Take shelter.
And when I got to a mile, I mean, I was panicking. That's when I knew I had to do something.
You have time to get below ground. You need to be below ground with this storm.
There must have been a structure up here hit somewhere. Anybody that gets hit by that thing, the house is going to be leveled, I guarantee you.
But the twister is just beginning. It's sucked up so much debris that it's become a gigantic roving blender, pulverizing everything in its path and spitting it out. And it is heading straight for Jennifer.
That's right. So use your judgment.
Meteorologists tracking the storm have never seen anything like this giant. To their astonishment, Doppler radar clocks the tornado at over 300 miles per hour, the highest wind speed ever recorded.
You have time. You probably still have a few minutes and more to move to a place of safety. Not much.
By 7 p.m., all forecasters know their worst nightmare is becoming a reality.
That's when I was telling my grandmother, it's gonna hit, it's gonna hit, it's gonna hit. Let's go or let's do something.
As Jennifer runs to her basement, storm watchers outside town can only look on helplessly in horror. In minutes, it is over. All that's left of Jennifer's apartment building are piles of rubble.
They're going next street over. They said nobody's been over there. They got some injured people next street over.
There's some other something trapped.
Numerous gas lines have been busted. No smoking.
There's no sign of Jennifer, her grandmother, and 5-day-old daughter. Then, the emergency crew hears Jennifer's faint screams coming from the wreckage. She's afraid her baby daughter has stopped breathing.
I was screaming, I have an infant, you know, in here, please hurry.
There is no time to spare. Suddenly, a sign of life. A hand pokes through the debris. And then they find the baby.
Be careful, help him down. She walked.
Jennifer's grandmother is next. She's injured, but alert.
Okay. Go over here and lay down. Don't hurry. I got the baby. She's fine. She's fine.
Back home, guys. Back home.
You can take her up to the ambulance. Yeah. Put her on that scooter. Take her up there.
Thank you. Well, thank you for saving me and my baby and my grandma.
I was thinking, God, I'm still alive. My family's still alive. Oh, I made it. Actually, I didn't think we were gonna make it. I really didn't.
As we've seen, we're often helpless when nature turns violent. Nature's fury can bring death to those standing in its path. Now, get ready to meet people who embrace danger and pain as part of life. You won't believe what you're about to see. a death-defying leap from a tall tower in the South Pacific. Young Brazilian tribesmen subjected to the agonizing stings of giant bullet ants. And a Thai festival of the spirit that requires piercings of the flesh. Welcome to the limits of human experience in our most amazing, painful rituals. It may be the most dangerous test of faith in the world. A man will dive off an 80-foot tower with only 2 fragile vines between him and certain death. Here on Pentecost Island in the South Pacific, it's a way of thanking the spirits for a good harvest. Today, Willie Warren and his 7-year-old son Philip are readying themselves for the harrowing jump. They're supposed to come as close to the ground as possible, but if the vines are too long, they could be maimed or killed. People have broken collarbones and hips, and at least one man died when his vines snapped. Even if all goes well, the jolt from the bottom is enough to pull bones from their sockets. Little Philip will go first. Young boys get to jump from lower heights. In Philip's case, 25 feet. Still, it's enough to break his bones or his neck. He makes it unharmed, if a little shaken. Now it's his father's turn to jump from the very top of the tower. At 80 feet, it's like diving from the top of a 7-story building. He's 4 times his son's weight, and if the vine snaps, he'll hit the ground at 50 miles per hour. What's more, Willie has to jump out as far as he can to avoid impaling himself on the tower's rough logs. The slightest error could cripple him or kill him. It's a perfect jump and an amazing, dangerous moment. But our next moment may be even scarier. Get ready to face one of your worst nightmares. Being stung by swarms of venomous insects. The sting of a bee or wasp can be excruciating, or sometimes even kill you. But if you think they're bad, meet the bullet ant. Its sting is said to be the most painful on Earth. Some liken it to being shot with a bullet. But you're about to see people stick their hands into gloves swarming with these nasty creatures. Among the Sature Moe tribe of Brazil, it's how boys become men. And for these young initiates, the painful moment is at hand. The ants have been gathered from the forest, then drugged, then placed stinger first into woven glove liners. Now, as the ants writhe in angry desperation, the ravaging begins. One by one, the young men suffer the shock of having dozens of stingers penetrate their flesh. They must wear the gloves for 10 minutes. Their agony is unmistakable.
The pain is incomparable, understand? There's no pain like it.
Have you ever had your hands on fire?
É a mesma coisa.
It's the same thing.
And this moment's not over. Once the gloves are off, the stinging and burning only grow more excruciating. As the venom turns their hands into swollen, simmering, paralyzed stumps. What's worse, no initiate can be considered a true warrior until he has undergone this rite of pain, not once, but 20 times. But that ritual pales compared to what's coming up next. If you can stand to look. It takes the title of our #1 painful ritual. A dangerous rite in which people do things to their bodies that are almost beyond imagination. Each October on the island of Phuket, just off the western coast of the Thai Peninsula, a religious frenzy erupts, in which people offer up their flesh to the gods. These spirit servants believe their sacrifice helps and heals others. What they're about to do is horrific. They will allow their cheeks, ears, necks, and tongues to be pierced with metal rods. Gide admits his fear.
Am I scared about getting stabbed? Of course, I am a regular man. Even when I go to the doctor to get shots, I am scared. But once the spirit embodies me, I am not scared.
Now, Gide's time has come. Amidst the chaos of possession, incense, noise, and emotion, he seems oblivious to pain. Five giant skewers will pierce his flesh. Crowds of believers swell to view the pierced and bleeding men. For the devout, piercing is a sacred pain. Gide bestows blessings, while alongside him, the procession of the pierced goes on mile after mile. The displays of steel are mind-boggling, from skewers to swords to thick pipes penetrating cheeks and tongues. It's a spectacle unmatched anywhere in the world. And our most amazing painful ritual. As we've seen, rituals can be dangerous. But there are people who face treacherous tests of a different kind and willingly place their lives on the line. Now get ready as National Geographic's Most Dangerous Moments embarks on amazing challenges. If you want a dangerous challenge, try this. Off the coast of South Africa, an abandoned container ship burns out of control and finally runs aground right near a protected wildlife sanctuary. It's a ticking time bomb, loaded with toxic chemicals and fuel oil. Now, it's up to a daring salvage crew to contain the raging fire and unload the toxic cargo. They've got their work cut out for them. It's extremely dangerous, and the men are ready to evacuate at a moment's notice.
You've got the ship at an angle, you've got a lot of oils, and the decks are very, very dangerous, very slippery.
Though the flames die down, the fire continues to rage below deck. For weeks, the salvage team battles the fire and hazardous working conditions. Then, one morning, things take a dramatic and deadly turn. A helicopter pilot ferries the work crew out to the ship.
We moved to our normal position and started letting the people down onto the ship. And then out of the corner of my eye, I just saw something blowing up from the deck of the ship. I immediately asked the winchman what blew up.
A heavy-duty sack has blown into the chopper's tail rotor, crippling it. The chopper is out of control.
I went down on power to get the aircraft on deck as soon as possible. And I then had a controlled pressure.
A second helicopter races to the scene.
So we approached the helicopter, and it was just the way it fell. I just thought that there's no way anybody can get out of there alive.
Hidden in the flames, injured men are scrambling to survive. Some jump overboard, while others are able to make it down a ship's ladder. The most badly injured have to be lowered over the ship's side on stretchers. But miraculously, all 17 men aboard the flaming chopper survive. For some people, danger is part of the job description. But others seek out the world's riskiest challenges, even if it could cost them their lives. The Sanpo River Gorge in Tibet boasts some of the most violent whitewater in the world. No one has ever descended its length. Now, 4 world-class kayakers have traveled here to take up the challenge. Almost from the start, the river shows it's not to be trifled with. The heaviest rains in decades have swollen the river, creating monster rapids. Doug Gordon, the group's strongest paddler, heads into the thick of the raging current. Suddenly, the river flips him and holds him under. After almost 30 seconds, the river spits him out. But it's a close call and a warning.
I got humbled. That's the best way to describe it. But all's well that ends well, so we'll just be a little more careful on the next one.
Now, they enter the most dangerous stretch of whitewater. Doug leads the way. He thinks he's found a route through the raging rapids. There's no room for error. He'll have to plunge over an 8-foot waterfall in just the right spot. Any mistake, and the river will suck him into a hole at the base of the falls. As he nears the drop, the team watches from shore, knowing that Doug must hug the rocks on the right, where he can handle the current. But the river has other plans. It drags him toward the heart of the falls. It flips him upside down and holds him. But this time, the river doesn't let go.
I thought he would roll up and paddle into the eddy. I really was not that afraid for him until the horror of the last roll attempt. I saw him disappear into the first hole, and I never saw him again.
Stunned by Doug's death, the others abandoned their quest.
I don't think I'll ever do anything anywhere near that challenging again and put myself in a risky situation ever.
In spite of the risks, there are always those willing to go where others won't. You probably wouldn't want any part of what these 4 men are attempting. They're on Canada's remote Baffin Island, north of the Arctic Circle. They've braved intense cold, ice crevasses, avalanches, and fierce polar bears, all to do one thing: climb these sheer peaks, towering several thousand feet over the ice, and then jump off. All 4, Dwayne Thomas, Sean Richards, Sean Ellison, and Ian Mullins, are experienced base jumpers. Ian has made over 150 jumps off bridges, buildings, antennas, and cliffs. But Baffin Island is their most extreme challenge yet. Not only is it cold,
Pretty chilly, about minus 15, minus 16.
but they're about 100 miles from the nearest humans.
We're doing the most extreme sport in the world, in the most extreme place in the world, and there's nobody here to rescue us if we get into danger at all.
Things go wrong right from the start. On their very first ascent, Sean Richards gets frostbite, and Sean Ellison re-injures a knee.
This is a pretty hardcore climb.
They're laid up for several days. But now, finally, after hours of climbing, all 4 stand at the top of a 3,500-foot cliff. It's been brutal getting here, and the jump down could kill them. But it's the moment they've dreamed of for months.
My heart is going. Oh. All right, Dwayne?
Yeah, mate.
Yeah, baby, yeah, come on! Come on! All right, bud. Hold on.
They may be seasoned jumpers, but they're not taking a dive off a 3,500-foot cliff lightly. A gust of wind could send them crashing into the rock face. And even premier base jumpers have been killed when their chutes didn't open. Ian and Dwayne will go first.
3, 2, 1.
Sean Ellison is next.
See ya.
Finally, Sean Richards stands alone at the summit.
First jumping Baffin Island. Taken a lot of planning, a lot of time and effort to get here. Let's go enjoy the ride. I'm absolutely revving. Rock and roll! I'm absolutely blown away. Take me home, that's it, I'm done, man, I'm finished. Heads up!
You don't have to travel to the ends of the earth to find dangerous challenges. There are plenty of them closer to home, including some that are explosive. Meet a family who make a living blowing up buildings, including some of the biggest of their kind anywhere in the world. Since 1960, Maryland-based Controlled Demolition Inc. has brought down over 7,000 structures, setting 4 world records. The Loazo family is modest about its accomplishments.
We do argue here and there about who actually holds what record, and the truth is it's subjective.
It gets down to nitpicking. Well, what is the biggest one? And, what was the most difficult one? And this and that. They were all challenges.
Challenges indeed. Blowing up bridges is hard enough. try blowing up an old bridge without damaging the new one just 10 feet away. Then, try taking down some of the biggest structures in the world without killing anyone, including yourself. They've set world records for the world's biggest gas tower implosion in New York. And the world's tallest radio tower demolition in Trelew, Argentina. In San Juan, Puerto Rico, they set a world record for the most buildings taken down at a time, 17.
Fire.
And in Detroit, they took down the J.L. Hudson department store, setting a world record for the tallest steel building ever imploded. But for sheer jaw-dropping size, nothing can beat imploding gigantic arenas and stadiums. And the world record, and our top dangerous moment, belongs to the Seattle Kingdome, recognized by Guinness as the largest building by volume ever imploded.
On every level, that job was so incredibly challenging. Logistically, it was so huge.
Completed in 1976, the Kingdome measured nearly 40,000 cubic meters in volume. Its roof alone covered 10 acres and weighed 23,000 tons. One of the largest in the world. It would take a king-size effort to bring it down. 22 tons of explosives and almost 6,000 dynamite holes. And if something went wrong, the damage would be king-size too. To nearby historic buildings, a railroad, and a brand new stadium. What's more, the site was right on top of the Seattle earthquake fault, so vibrations had to be minimized. 20-foot-high mounds of dirt and sand were built to cushion the fall. Finally, on March the 26th, 2000, thousands turn out to see the dome come down.
Nothing could have prepared me for what happened, because I don't care how many times you picture it in your mind, you just can't get your mind around something of that magnitude coming down.
3, 2, 1, fire!
In less than 20 seconds, the Kingdome is reduced to a pile of rubble only 20 feet high. It's a beautiful job, and one worthy of a world record. As we've seen, taking on dangerous challenges can result in some amazing moments. We've followed people who survived some hair-raising adventures. You've survived too, after confronting spine-tingling danger, animal encounters that shock us, and animal rescues that take unexpected turns. The fury of nature unbound. Rites and rituals at the edges of human experience. And perilous challenges to overcome. They're the scenes that stop our hearts. National Geographic's most dangerous moments.